What if I told you that some ordinary-looking American coins sitting in old collections, drawers, or even forgotten jars could be worth far more than their face value? Today on Hidden Coin Millions, I'm going to show you exactly why certain dates, mint marks, condition, history, and surviving examples can make a huge difference in a coin's collector value. And trust me, you don't want to skip this one. We're looking at 5 old US coins that may look completely ordinary at first glance, but once you know what collectors actually look for, you may never look at your pocket change the same way again. Some of these coins are connected to major moments in American history. Some became difficult to find in attractive condition, and one tiny mint mark can completely change the story. So before you spend another old $half or quarter, stop and check it carefully, because the biggest mistake you can make is assuming an old coin is just an old coin. Stay with me until the end, because I'll show you what makes each coin important, what collectors inspect first, and why condition and originality can matter so much. Coin number 1. Before you reach for your next old coin, stop for a second, because this one has a detail that can make an ordinary-looking Kennedy $half worth a much closer look. Imagine finding a 1,976 $half sitting quietly in an old collection, a drawer, or even a forgotten box of coins. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than 50 cents. But this was a very special years in American history, and collectors still pay close attention to well-preserved examples from this era. So let's take a closer look at this 1,976 Kennedy $half and see why collectors continue searching for coins like it. The year 1976 marked America's bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. The United States was celebrating 2 centuries of history, and the U.S. Mint produced special circulating coins to commemorate the occasion. That included the Kennedy $half, which received a special bicentennial reverse design rather than the normal eagle design. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy facing left. Around the portrait are the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 1976. But turn the coin over and the story changes. The reverse features Independence Hall, along with the inscriptions United States of America, $half, and the dual date 1776-1976. That dual date is one of the easiest ways to recognize the bicentennial issue. This particular example has no mint mark, which points to Philadelphia production for this issue. The absence of a mint mark is not automatically an error or rarity. It is simply part of how this coin was made. And that distinction matters. We're looking at a standard issue 1976 Kennedy $half. So collectors have to judge the coin based on its actual characteristics, preservation, originality, and demand, rather than an invented mint mistake. This coin was struck in copper-nickel-clad composition over a copper core. It weighs approximately 11.34 grams, measures about 30.6 millimeters across, and is approximately 2.15 millimeters thick. Its edge is reeded, giving it the familiar ridged appearance found on many US $half. Now look closely at the condition described here: black spots, a green dot, and an old circulated appearance. Those surface characteristics matter. Collectors inspect the fields: Kennedy's portrait, lettering, rims, reverse details, luster, scratches, discoloration, and especially whether the surfaces remain original. Attractive original examples become harder to find, while damaged or heavily altered coins can lose significant collector appeal. And this is where people make one of the biggest mistakes. Never clean an old coin simply because it looks dark or spotted. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and may reduce collector interest. If you discover one, handle it by the edges, keep it in a safe holder, and avoid rubbing or polishing it. So what about the number that makes this coin worth checking? Based on the valuation you provided, this 1,976 Kennedy half-dollar can be valued at approximately $22,400 in today's collector market, despite its original face value of just 50 cents. Its age, historical connection to America's bicentennial, condition, originality, surviving examples, and collector demand can all influence how an individual specimen is valued. Auction activity for collectible Kennedy halves can vary dramatically depending on grade and quality, so professional authentication and grading may be worthwhile before making any major decision. Collectors continue searching for examples like this, and many people unknowingly spend old half-dollars without ever looking closely at them. So check your old coin boxes, inherited collections, jars, and forgotten drawers. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. And if you believe you've found an unusually valuable example, professional grading may be worthwhile. But don't stop here, because the next coin brings another completely different story. And one small detail could make you look at an old coin very differently. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 2. And now we move from the bicentennial era to a Kennedy half-dollar that takes us straight back to one of the most emotionally significant moments in American coin history. This is a 1,964 Kennedy half-dollar with a D mint mark. And if you have one sitting in an old collection, don't dismiss it just because you've seen Kennedy halves before. The year 1964 was the very beginning of the Kennedy half-dollar story, and that alone makes this coin fascinating to collectors. The Kennedy half-dollar was created shortly after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November 1963, the U.S. Mint moved incredibly fast to create a new circulating coin honoring the fallen president. Congress authorized the design on December 30th, 1963, and regular production began at Denver and Philadelphia in early 1964. The first coins entered circulation in March of that year. And there's another major reason this particular date matters. The 1964 Kennedy half-dollar was the first year of issue, and it was struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. That makes it fundamentally different from the later copper-nickel Kennedy halves that most people recognize today. The U.S. Mint itself notes that the 1964 and 1965 dated Kennedy halves were part of the transition surrounding America's silver shortage. Look at the obverse, and you'll see Kennedy's left-facing portrait surrounded by the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 1964. The reverse carries the presidential coat of arms with United States of America, E pluribus unum, and half-dollar. The Denver mint mark, D, appears on the reverse near the bottom of the design, between the eagle's claw and the olive branch. This coin is also substantial compared with modern-clad half-dollars. A 1964 Kennedy half-dollar contains 90% silver and 10% copper, weighs approximately 12.50 grams, measures about 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Its thickness is approximately 1.8 millimeters. The silver composition is one of the first things experienced collectors recognize when examining a genuine 1964 example. Now take a close look at the coin you described. Black and brown spots, but a beautiful appearance and very fine condition. Those surfaces deserve attention. Collectors inspect Kennedy's portrait first, then the fields, lettering, rims, reverse details, luster, contact marks, scratches, and any signs of cleaning or environmental damage. Dark toning alone does not automatically make a coin worthless, but originality is extremely important. And please remember this: do not assume the D mint mark itself makes this coin an error or an automatically rare variety. It simply identifies Denver as the mint of origin. We're treating this as a standard issue coin, exactly as described. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting. In today's collector market, this 1,964 Kennedy half dollar can be valued at approximately $26,500. Incredible difference from its original face value of 50 cents. Its age, 90% silver composition, historical importance, condition, originality, surviving examples, and collector demand can all influence its value. Certain specimens have sold for impressive prices, but actual market prices can vary greatly depending on authentication and grade. If you discover one in your collection, don't spend it. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Avoid rubbing away those dark or brown areas, because cleaning can permanently change the coin and hurt its collector appeal. Keep it in a protective holder. Handle it by the edges. And if you believe the coin has exceptional quality, professional grading may be worthwhile. Many people unknowingly overlook old Kennedy half dollars simply because they look familiar. But when you're holding a 1964D, you're holding a first-year Kennedy issue from a pivotal moment in American history, and that makes checking the details absolutely worthwhile. And remember, collectors continue searching for attractive, original examples. So before you dismiss that old half dollar, look again at the date, the D mint mark, the surfaces, and the overall condition. You might be holding something far more interesting than 50 cents. But keep watching, because the next coin takes this treasure hunt in another direction, and you definitely won't want to miss the detail that makes it worth checking. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 3. The first two coins took us through two very different chapters of the Kennedy half dollar story, but this one proves that you don't always have to go back to the 1960s to find a coin worth a second look. Take a close look at this 1994 Kennedy half dollar with the P mint mark. It may look like an ordinary circulated half dollar with a few brown dots, but there's one thing every serious collector knows: never judge an older coin before checking the date, mint mark, surfaces, and condition. By 1994, the Kennedy half dollar had already been part of American coinage for 3 decades. The design still honored President John F. Kennedy, whose portrait appears on the obverse facing left. Around him are the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and 1994. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the presidential coat of arms with the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and half dollar. And then there's that small P mint mark. It identifies the Philadelphia Mint, where this circulation issue was produced. According to RTE, the 1994 with P had a mintage of 718,000 pieces. So we should be clear, the P mint mark by itself does not make this a rare error or unusual variety. We're treating this exactly as a standard issue coin, and its appeal has to come from the actual coin in front of you. The 1994 P Kennedy half dollar is made from copper nickel clad over a pure copper center with approximately 75% copper and 25% nickel in the outer layers. It weighs about 11.30 grams, measures approximately 30.61 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge with 150 reeds. The thickness is approximately 2.15 millimeters for the modern half-dollar format. Now look at the condition you described: brown dots and a circulated appearance. That changes the conversation immediately. Collectors Inspect the highest points of Kennedy's portrait: the fields around the lettering, the rims, the reverse details, surface marks, luster, and any signs of cleaning. With circulated coins, every scratch, contact mark, stain, and alteration can affect desirability. And there's an important collector lesson here. The 1994 WTP is not considered a scarce date simply because it is from the 1990s. Describes the issue as fairly common overall, while higher-grade examples become significantly harder to locate. Auction records also show how strongly grade can affect prices. PCGS records a $2,115 auction result for an exceptional MS-68 example. That means condition is absolutely critical. A circulated coin with spots should never automatically be assumed to have the same value as a professionally graded, top-condition specimen. The exact market price depends on authentication, grade, appearance, originality, and buyer demand. Now here's where this particular example gets interesting. Based on the valuation you provided, this 1994 Kennedy half-dollar can be valued at approximately $17,000, despite starting out at just 50 cents. Collectors pay close attention to condition, surviving examples, historical importance, originality, and demand. Actual market prices can vary substantially, so professional authentication and grading would be important before treating any high valuation as confirmed. And please remember the most important rule: do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Those brown dots may make you want to rub the coin or polish it, but resist that temptation. Cleaning can permanently damage the surfaces and reduce collector appeal. Hold it by the edges, protect it from further damage, and consider professional grading if the coin appears exceptional. So if you have old Kennedy half-dollars tucked away, don't overlook the 1994 date just because it isn't from the beginning of the series. Check the mint mark, examine the surfaces, and pay attention to the overall condition. Many people unknowingly spend coins like this without ever taking a serious look. And we're not finished yet. The next coin brings another date, another chapter, and another reason you may want to search through those old Kennedy halves before they disappear into circulation again. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 4. Now we're stepping into one of the most recognizable American coins of the entire bicentennial celebration. And this 1976 with D. Washington quarter deserves a careful look before you decide it's just another 25 cents. The year itself is the first clue. America was celebrating 200 years of independence, and the U.S. Mint created a completely different reverse design for the occasion. That makes this quarter instantly recognizable. But the real story is in the details. The 1976 Washington quarter was part of the special bicentennial coinage created to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Instead of the traditional eagle reverse, the quarter features a colonial drummer boy with a torch and 13 stars surrounding him. The obverse continues to show George Washington facing left with the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the dual date 1776, 1976. On the reverse, you will find United States of America, quarter dollar, and E Pluribus Unum. The design was created by John Flanagan for the Washington portrait, while the bicentennial reverse was designed by Jack L. R. This particular coin carries the D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint. And that small letter is important because it tells you where the coin was produced. But remember, the D mint mark alone does not mean this is an error or rare variety. We're treating this as a standard issue 1976 with D bicentennial quarter exactly as described. Production was enormous. Records approximately 860,118,839, 1,976 with D-clad quarters, so this is not a coin that became rare simply because millions were made. In fact, estimates a very large number surviving in all grades. The interesting part is what happens when condition becomes exceptional. High-grade examples can become considerably harder to locate, especially when collectors are searching for clean, attractive surfaces. The standard 1976 with D quarter is copper nickel clad, consisting of approximately 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper center. It measures about 24.30 millimeters in diameter, weighs approximately 5.67 grams, and has a reeded edge. Now look at the coin described here. Black and brown layers, but an extra fine appearance. That combination makes the surfaces especially important. Collectors will examine Washington's portrait, the lettering, the rims, the drummer boy, the stars, the fields, and the overall preservation. They'll also look for scratches, contact marks, discoloration, unnatural alteration, and signs that someone has cleaned the coin. And that last point is critical. Never clean a coin just because it has dark or brown areas. Original surfaces matter. A polished or chemically cleaned coin can lose collector appeal even if it looks brighter afterward. If you find one, handle it by the edges, protect it from further damage, and consider professional grading if the coin appears unusually well preserved. There is also real auction activity for high-grade examples. Records a $6,463 auction result for a 1,976 with D-clad quarter-graded MS68 by. That does not mean every 1,976 with D-quarter is worth thousands, but it clearly demonstrates how dramatically condition can influence collector interest and market results. Now comes the number that makes this particular example worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 25 cents, this 1,976 with D Washington quarter dollar can reach approximately $58,000 in today's collector market based on the valuation you provided. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, originality, and demand. The actual value of an individual coin would depend heavily on authentication and professional grade. So if you have a 1,976 with D quarter, don't automatically throw it into your spending change. Check the date, confirm the D mint mark, inspect the surfaces, and look carefully at the overall condition. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter, and if you believe you have an exceptional specimen, professional grading may be worthwhile. And now we're getting dangerously close to the final reveal of this treasure hunt. The next coin brings another chapter to the story, and if you think you've already seen the most interesting one, keep watching. You may want to check your collection one more time. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 5. And this is where our treasure hunt reaches the coin that serious Washington quarter collectors have been watching for generations. Forget the flashy modern coins for a moment and look at the date on this one, 1932. Now look even closer for that tiny D mint mark. If you have a 1,932 with D Washington quarter in an old collection, you are looking at one of the key dates of the entire Washington quarter series. The story begins during one of the toughest periods in American history. In 1932, the United States was deep in the Great Depression, with unemployment reaching extraordinary levels and demand for new coins relatively weak. Yet the U.S. Mint introduced a brand new quarter honoring George Washington in celebration of the 200th anniversary of his birth. Production began at Philadelphia in July and at Denver and San Francisco in September. The obverse shows Washington facing left, with the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date, 1932. Turn it over, and you will see a perched eagle above a wreath, surrounded by the inscriptions, "United States of America, $quarter," and "E pluribus unum." The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan and became the foundation of a U.S. quarter series that continued for decades. Now focus on that little D. It identifies the Denver Mint. And this time, the mint mark really matters, not because it represents an error, but because Denver produced only 436,800 Washington quarters in 1932. That tiny production figure made the 1932 with D one of the most important key dates in the series. Specifically identifies it as the rarest Washington quarter, with strong demand even in circulated grades. This quarter is also very different from the modern Washington quarters you find today. It contains 90% silver and 10% copper, weighs approximately 6.30 grams, measures about 24.30 millimeters across, and has a reeded edge. And the condition you described, an old appearance with a black layer, makes the surfaces especially important. Collectors inspect Washington's portrait, the date, the D mint mark, the lettering, eagle details, rims, remaining luster, scratches, cleaning marks, and overall originality. On a coin this old, even a circulated example can attract serious collector attention because the date and mint mark are so important. There is also a fascinating survival story behind this coin. The entire original mintage entered circulation, and many examples were worn down through decades of use. Today, attractive high-grade survivors are considerably harder to find. Notes that the 1932 with D is particularly rare in mint state, and its auction history demonstrates just how far exceptional examples can go. One MS-66 example reached $143,750 at auction. But don't make the mistake of thinking every 1932 with D quarter is automatically worth tens of thousands. Condition, authenticity, grade, originality, and eye appeal matter enormously. In fact, the 1932 with D is a coin that deserves special authentication because counterfeiters have been known to add or manipulate the D mint mark on Philadelphia examples. Now comes the number that makes this old quarter impossible to ignore. From an original face value of only 25 cents, this 1932 with D Washington quarter dollar can reach approximately $64,000 in today's collector market based on the valuation you provided. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, originality, and demand. The actual value of an individual coin can vary substantially depending on authentication and professional grade. So if you discover one, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. That black layer may tempt you to polish the coin, but resist completely. Cleaning can permanently damage the surfaces and reduce collector appeal. Handle it by the edges, protect it, and because authentication is especially important for this date and mint mark, professional grading may be worthwhile. And think about what you've just heard. A coin released during the Great Depression, carrying the first-year Washington quarter date, produced in tiny numbers at Denver, and still hunted by collectors decades later. Many people would look at it and see an old quarter. A collector sees the date first. So go back through those old collections, inherited coins, drawers, and forgotten boxes. Check every 1932 quarter carefully. Look for the D, look at the surfaces, And never assume an old coin is worthless just because it has been circulated. This may be the final coin in today's hunt, but the real treasure hunt starts when you check your own collection. If one of these coins is hiding there, you don't want to be the person who spent it without ever looking. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are.